Okay, we're gonna, if you are not familiar with Salvatore Pais' patents, he has 5 patents. High temperature superconductor, or piezoelectric induced high temperature superconductor, high frequency gravitational wave generator. He's got inertial mass reduction for a transmedium craft. He's got high energy electromagnetic field generator, and then magnetically confined fusion reactor. 5 patents. They were published between 2016 and 2019. I think 3 of them were approved and 2 of them were not approved. And there's been a lot of drama about Salvatore Pais' patents. I keep saying his name wrong. And people have been trying to claim they're fake, they're pseudoscience, blah, blah, blah. I called out one of the physicists that was quoted in a Warzone article claiming that it's all gibberish and he's a charlatan and all this shit. Turns out the guy's a mentally ill nut job who is possibly not even a physicist. He's not even associated to UNC where he claims to be associated to. I looked the guy up on the UNC website. He's not even listed in the department he claims to be connected to. You look at his LinkedIn profile and it says he has an unpaid affiliation with the university. So he's not even a professor at all, actually. This is like literally, I couldn't believe when I looked this guy up. I find out he's a complete fucking phony. Complete phony. Never written a scientific paper. So, like, just to put it in context here, the person that claimed that Salvatore Pais, real Navy engineer with papers, peer-reviewed papers, patents, worked for NASA. The person hating on Salvatore Pais has never written a scientific paper, isn't even really affiliated with the university he claims to be affiliated with. The only things he's ever written is basically just some it's not even pseudoscience. It's just like political garbage, like about how AI weapons are going to be dangerous. It has nothing to do with physics whatsoever. Literally nothing to do with physics. Like, oh, AI weapons are going to be dangerous in the future. Duh. A 10-year-old could tell you that. You got a PhD in physics to go around claiming that AI weapons are going to be dangerous? You don't need a degree to do that. Absolutely wild. So anybody that is shitting on the Salvatore Pais patents, you have an enemy in me, and I am going to tear you down and show that you have no clothes whatsoever. I don't care who you are or whatever. You're on notice. Be careful. I couldn't believe it. I was expecting, like, I called up the university as well, actually, to try to confirm that he had worked there. They gave me some website to like dig into or whatever. I didn't even bother with it because I didn't want to sign up. I just went directly to their faculty list, and dude's just not even on there. Absolutely wild. So yeah, I will strip you naked. If you're out there and you're talking shit and you've got skeletons in your closet, or you're playing, like, if you guys don't know the movie Catch Me If You Can, it's based on a true story. Leonardo DiCaprio just basically pretends to be a lawyer and doctor and a pilot, all these highly skilled positions, and he convinces people because nobody does any background research on anyone, like, ever. Okay, here we go. Here's the clip. This should pretty much explain everything. Where is it?
The Department of the Navy patented a wild, crazy electromagnetic plasma aircraft. There are no wings, really. There are no jets. There are no traditional aerodynamic physical things that you would see on an aircraft. The description is one of electromagnetism and plasma manipulation and distorting the air and almost, I guess, space-time around the craft itself. One particular team of journalists at The Drive, they're called the Warzone, they have spent the last year digging into these patents.
Hi, I'm Brett Tingley. I'm a freelance writer and journalist. I'm currently a contributor.
Okay, so right off the bat, there's Brett Tingley. There's the author of the Warzone article that I was just showing you guys right there. That's the guy who investigated it. And that was Stephen Greenstreet right beforehand talking about Sal Pais' patents. And we look at those patents, and everybody was calling them UFO patents because It looks like the black triangle that everybody's talking about, the TR3B thing. The gravity wave patent looks like the Tic Tac. So people are going, what are these UFO patents? What is this that we're looking at? It's only with the context of the MH370 videos that we can understand that we are looking at Salvatore Pais's technology. We are looking at all of his patents right here. We're looking at the gravity wave patent with the beams. We're looking at the magnetically confined fusion reaction with the orbs that you see here. We are looking at inertial mass reduction right here. We are looking at high energy electromagnetic field generator when they combine like this as well. All of Salvatore Pais's patents are right here. No wonder he wanted to talk to me. We're looking at the guy's patents in 4K. No wonder he like is giddy when he's looking at that, because he's like, yeah, we are teleporting planes, right? In the back of his mind, I'm sure that's what he's thinking.
For the war zone, and it's an aviation and aerospace and defense news and analysis site.
Before I dive into the patents themselves, so this is Dr. Salvatore Pais. He's the guy behind these patents, correct?
Correct. He's currently employed by Naval Strategic Systems Program, but prior to that, he was employed by the Naval Air Warfare Center as an aerospace engineer. And he conducted a research project funded by the Navy into high energy electromagnetic fields. And apparently, as a result of that research project, he was able to get these 5 patents approved.
So one of the things, and we'll show another clip as well. There's probably ads. Don't jinx it if you didn't get ads. There's almost certainly ads. It's all about the high energy electromagnetic field generation. That's the secret to all of this. The high energy electromagnetic field generation is the basis for all of this. Is that Pais realized we can produce extremely high electromagnetic fields that break the Schwinger limit, and we know what the Schwinger effect does. It produces photons from the ether. No wonder it's so controversial. This flips the conventional understanding of physics on its head.
He apparently is hidden behind all kinds of non-disclosure agreements, gag orders. He's not really allowed to talk to the press. But I told him who I was and why I was writing him. It was on the record. He knew it was on the record. The most important thing is that he is a believer. And
so I also want to point out that Salvatore Pais is under NDAs. He is being actively monitored by what he says, but he doesn't give a shit. Well, he does give a shit. He doesn't want to go to jail, but he's clearly pushing the boundaries of what he's allowed to say. And every time before I interview him, I think he does this for every interview, he says he doesn't want to know any of the questions ahead of time. He says, I want it to be like off the cuff. And that's a good indication that somebody is telling you the truth. Is that he says, I'll just tell you, I just want it to be an open thing. Now, this scares the hell out of the intelligence community in the Navy, because it's easy to get somebody caught in a corner where they're giving away information, even if they don't answer affirmatively. Pretty incredible. What if we get him in international waters? That's a funny comment. Okay, let's keep this going.
an advocate of his own research. In our correspondence,
So I know I keep pausing it a lot, but it's very important to realize that he's an advocate for his own research. This is not a situation where the Navy's pushing this guy's patents out there. He's the one pushing his own information. This is the biggest evidence that it's not some disinformation thing. Salvatore Pais is literally pushing this information out there because he wants people to understand that it's real. The problem with him, my criticism of him, is that Salvatore Pais is trying to get mainstream academia to accept him, and he needs to give up on mainstream academia. Mainstream academia is the same as mainstream media. It's dead. It's already dead. Trying to beg mainstream academia to acknowledge you, honestly, low T, guys. Like, Salvatore Pais should just give up on that shit. He should be doing podcasts instead where he's telling people the physics and the science. That's going to have way more impact than trying to convince some idiots at MIT who don't even understand the basics of energy how this stuff works. They can't understand it because they were taught wrong. If you were taught wrong, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of the universe. You cannot possibly understand real physics. You can't understand it. You've got the fundamental principles you do not understand correctly. And this is why when I shit on some of these PhD physicists, I just simply say they don't understand the basics of physics. Space isn't empty. They don't understand that. That's the most basic principle of physics, is that space is not empty. If you don't understand that space is not empty, you can never understand the universe. You're never going to get fusion to work correctly because you don't understand the criteria. So that's what I've been trying to tell Sal behind the scenes, is like, dude, why are you begging for acceptance from these MIT douchebags and these other people? And if you watch the Hodge Twins podcast, I ripped on the MIT people because they did Sal Pais dirty. And I'm going to continue. Anybody that comes after him, you're going to have me on your back. 100% guaranteed. And I will be challenging you to debates on physics. And when you dodge, it's going to look bad for you because some guy with no degree in physics at all is dunking on you on physics. Doesn't really get more shameful than that, to be honest with you. Okay, let's keep this thing going. We got a couple more minutes on this.
Went so far as to call it the Pais effect, which he describes as the controlled motion of electrified matter subjected to acceleration, deceleration, accelerated transients in a highly vibrated mode. Pais claims that this can lead to the enablement of macroscopic quantum coherence. In other words, you can...
I don't think people understood what he just said right there. Macroscopic quantum coherence. Where have we heard that? Macroscopic quantum coherence, the first thing I think about is teleportation. Very first thing. We're saying quantum effects at the macroscopic level. What's the most well-known quantum effect? Quantum tunneling, quantum entanglement. Those are the most well-known quantum effects. So when we're talking about macroscopic quantum effects, we're talking about taking magic, what we see from the double slit experiment, and scaling it up to large scale. Superconductors is the other one as well. Yeah. No, quantum is the opposite of macroscopic. Quantum is at the level below our perceivable understanding or reality. How do you rematerialize matter post wormhole? That's the interesting thing, is that you're not technically dematerializing and rematerializing it, though at the same time you kind of are. What you're doing is you're putting the object into superposition. So like my mug here. Is the mug right here, or is the mug here and over here? In quantum mechanics, you cannot actually narrow down the location of the particle. It could be here and it could be here. Technically, quantum mechanics would say it's in two locations at the same time. And so if you're going to make a macroscopic quantum effect, a wormhole, what you're doing is you build a hologram here of the plane, and then you confuse the universe into thinking it could be in either place. And then what you do is you take a measurement and poof, now the plane's gone from there to here. You building the wave function up, and then you're tearing the wave function down. That's what makes it honestly incredible, because it's like magic. It's not actually ripping down everything to the individual molecular level and then building it back up. That's not what it's doing. It's more like just making a hologram of the plane, and now the plane's in more than one location, and then you're confusing the universe into thinking, nope, it's not over there, now it's over here, through extremely powerful electromagnetic fields. You're interacting with the fundamental layer. Imagine a hologram, okay? I've got my hologram. Let's take this napkin here. This is my plate, and it's producing a hologram up here. Well, how would I interact with that hologram? I would put my hand over it, and now I'm going to distort the hologram. That's just an example of how you could like interact with reality. Because really, at the end of the day, the information is along the plate. This, what we're seeing here, is the illusion. Same concept with our reality. What we see around us is the illusion. The truth is we're all on a surface right next to each other that we don't perceive, but we are. And it's being projected onto this three-dimensional space that we see. That's how I understand it. That's why I consider the holographic principle to be correct. The only way I can justify teleportation is if all points in space and time are connected, and that means that we are living in a hologram. Hope that answers your question, Jonathan. Thank you very much for that donation. I appreciate you. But people will still call it dematerialization because technically the plane's disappearing from here and reappearing over here. It's not like Star Trek. It's just like it's just gone here and immediately over here. Right? So that's why it's a little bit different. Yeah, frequency matters for sure. Of course, frequency matters because at the smallest scales, this energy that's all around us is always like jiggling. Imagine like a big web, and the web is oscillating all the time. That's how you should think about the energy. So what you need to do is you need to find a way to like hit that right frequency, and now you've ripped a hole in it. You just rip a hole in the web. That's fundamentally what we're doing when we're breaking the Schrödinger limit. And Sal Pais says this, like cracking through the fabric of reality. The same way where we can take a wine glass and you hit it with a tuning fork, and the wine glass shatters. Why is the wine glass shattering? If you hit the right frequency with the tuning fork, you're resonating with the wine glass, and the wine glass breaks apart. Same concept. Same concept. You are using frequency in high energy electromagnetic fields, and you can interact directly with reality itself.
Kind of engineer the quantum state at a macroscopic level.
And that results in what?
Being able to, as he puts it, engineer the fabric of space-time, engineer the fabric of our reality at a fundamental level. It also, he claims, it can create these incredible electromagnetic fields, which essentially are a force field. They can deflect missiles, they can deflect asteroids, and it can also lead to the enablement of high temperature or room temperature superconductors, which have been like the holy grail of physics for decades.
When this patent was first submitted by the Department of the Navy, the U.S. Patent Office denied it.
They rejected the hybrid aerospace craft, and they rejected the room temperature superconductor. The examiner felt that there were enablement issues in both. In other words, that they were not possible based on the descriptions given, based on the science provided. Dr. James.
So that's a misconception. What he just said there is wrong because I've actually read what the patent officer said. The patent officer did not say that he did not think that it was possible. He said that mainstream academia does not accept it. The patent officer actually did not find any one factual fault in the claims that were being made. He simply said mainstream science and academia does not accept this. That was what the patent officer's actual argument was. There was no factual claims that disproved the patent whatsoever.
He is the Chief Technical Officer for the Naval Aviation Enterprise. So he's one of the lead scientists behind the Navy's aviation and aerospace research endeavors. He wrote a letter in the case of both of those rejections to the U.S. Patent Office, assuring them that these patents are enabled, and in the case of the room temperature superconductor, operable. Enabled, or enablement, according to the U.S. Patent Office, means it can be built. It's possible based on the description in the patent. Operable, on the other hand, has a very different meaning, which means there is one working. There is one in operation, at least one. What Pais is describing in these patents, it seems to match up exactly with both the Navy sightings and so many other sightings around the world, as you mentioned.
So it's huge because these patents look just like the UFOs people are seeing. So the question then is, did we reverse engineer it, or has it always been us? Are we seeing Salvatore Pais' patents floating around in the sky, or did we find these UFOs in the sky and then reverse engineer them? That's the real question at the end of the day. For me, I don't care. I think it's an interesting question. I just don't care. I just want the technology. I don't care if we got it from aliens or we figured it out. Just let's tell the truth. Let's get this information out there to the world, right? I wish I could answer all the questions, but there's so many more. So I'm just going to hit the ones that are the highlights on some of these. Have I looked in the Philadelphia experiment? Yeah, the Philadelphia experiment stock is rising. I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure, but I would say if this goes back to the 40s, the Philadelphia experiment's probably when we first understood that we could engineer the reality of space-time. Probably when we first understood that, going all the way back to the 40s. Very, very long time ago, guys. Okay, let's go look at a couple. Let's look at this post here. So this is the context for that, guys. So here's a couple quotes from the Warzone article. So I read the Warzone article as well. Macroscopic quantum coherence. The patent officer claimed that the conventional scientific understanding does not allow that to be possible. This is a direct quote from the patent officer. No assertions of room temperature superconductivity have currently been recognized or verified by the scientific community. Like, this is quite literally just saying that science does not accept this. Just because nobody yet has been able to prove room temperature superconductivity doesn't mean it's not possible. This has got to be the dumbest possible argument anyone could ever make. This argument has no merit whatsoever. This is like saying the argument here is literally the patent officer is a fucking retard because he literally said that we've figured it all out. This is what this is saying. We've got it all figured out. If it doesn't go against, like, if it's not consistent with the science as we understand it, then it's not real, which is hilarious because we don't even know what dark energy and dark matter are. Okay. So here's some more quotes from it. Sorry, guys, I'm not going to answer questions until I get through this because there's just a lot. So Sheehy, chief technical officer, writes a long post. This guy is like the CTO of the naval research for propulsion. This is the top guy in the Navy that would be relevant in this situation. Tells the patent officer it's operable. You can't ask for a better endorsement. That's the best possible endorsement you can get. And then they have their lawyers. They got the lawyers involved. So for the people that are saying that this is like disinformation or whatever, like they got the lawyers involved. If this was disinformation to confuse Russia and China, you're not going to be getting the lawyers involved to try to force the patents through. That's way too much effort for something that isn't real. Makes no sense. So Mark Glut, the lawyer, says she states the invention is operable and enabled, thus overcoming both rejections. The patent office must provide a factual basis for an enablement rejection rather than conclusory statement regarding the state of conventional scientific theory. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. You are not allowed to reject something just because you don't understand physics. You need to present a factual argument for why it's not possible. Not mainstream academia says this isn't real. That's not an argument. That's you being a retard. That's you being a primitive. Oh, I don't need to FOIA the patent officer. I can get the name. I can get the name anytime I want from Sal. In fact, he'll probably happily give it to me. I think he likes when I tear these people down. Okay, so then he wasn't even done. Then he also added more. This was just he just straight up blasted the patent officer here. He goes, the examiner turned to perceived mainstream science to indicate the concept was not possible, but that in this matter, the gatekeepers of science, the peer reviewers of the applicant's paper, indicated the concept is possible and enabled. I think he's stretching right here. This is a bit of a stretch, but the overall idea that, like, hey, he already submitted these papers for peer review. So for you to say, like, oh, it's not real because academia doesn't accept it, like, again, just a flawed argument on its face. Even despite all of that, despite the top Navy research doctor supporting it, saying it's operable, despite the lawyers getting involved and slamming the patent officer, they still rejected the patent. They still rejected it. They said, in such cases where the utility of the claimed invention is based upon allegations that border on the incredible or allegations that would not be readily accepted by a substantial portion of the scientific community, sufficient substantiated evidence of operability needs to be submitted by the appellant. Okay, so first of all, your argument here is literally that mainstream academia doesn't accept it, therefore it's not real. What? That's your argument? And then the second half of it is actually not unreasonable to ask for further evidence. The problem is, this is the Navy. The Navy's not going to give you their orb technology and go, here you go, here's the orb. The whole point is what they're building with it is classified. This is just the components of an object that they're producing. You have to put them together for it to mean something. So of course they can't give. It's like, hey, just give us all the secret information that the Navy's building. Of course the Navy's not going to give you that. You could even argue the Navy doesn't care about giving you that. You either accept it or you don't. They've already gone and had their top guy tell you it's operable. They're not going to give you an orb to prove to you that just because you're some idiot patent officer who doesn't understand physics. Crazy. Okay, so the point being, that's the reason why I wanted to show people like this. This is how suppression really works. This is how real suppression works. People say, why isn't it out there? It is out there. You've got the top CTO with the Navy telling you this stuff is real. What more do you want? What more can you reasonably expect? You want them to fly the orb to your house so that you can see it on your front lawn? That's not going to happen. And it goes to show how easy it is for us to get started. They don't even need to employ disinformation agents because we do it to ourselves. Humans are stupid. As long as there's some way where somebody can justify something's fake. Just look at the Russian video that I showed. People were adamant that the Russian video was in reverse. I'm going to show it here. People were adamant. People were saying, Ashton, you're losing your credibility with posting this. People were 1,000% convinced that this was in reverse because no one has any understanding of how science or physics or anything works. You can just literally see in the bottom left down there, you can see the time moving forward. This is not in reverse, guys. But people are adamant it's in reverse. Adamant. Arguing with me in the replies that I'm an idiot, that it's got to be in reverse. Unbelievable. There's two different views. People were arguing that, oh, it's exploding. It's just over the horizon and you can't see it. People will make up any bullshit to not believe what they see with their eyes. It's scary to me. People don't want to believe what they're seeing here is real. They just said, oh, it must be in reverse. There's another angle as well. I mean, there's another angle. This one also has a clock on it. There's a clock right at the top. You can see the time moving forward. It's not slowed down. It's not sped up. Two videos, two different perspectives, time's moving forward. I started laughing because it goes to show that there's not that much of a difference between the conspiracy theory people that are hard on the conspiracy theories, that nothing is real, and the debunkers. They're just two peas in the same pod. People will rationalize something they don't want to believe any way possible, despite all the evidence to the contrary. Oh, somebody reversed it and faked the time and put all this time on there. And then a second video from a second person, they did the same thing. Like, Jesus, people. Humans got to work on our discernment capabilities, guys. Not everything is a five layers deep psyop conspiracy theory. Not everything is that deep, guys. Sometimes it's just what you see is what there is. That's what's crazy to me, man. Anyway, it's just a matter of time before it becomes inevitable. And then it's going to get more and more awkward for like the UFO community that's decided to ostracize me, and the debunkers that have been defaming and making up a bunch of bullshit about me. It's just going to get, we're turning up the heat. We're boiling lobsters. We're turning up the heat. It's just going to get perpetually more awkward for them. Now we've got a whistleblower saying they're 100% sure that the satellite video is Sibbert's. 100%. Pretty crazy. Okay, let's keep this thing going, guys. We only got 30 minutes left for this stream. Let's watch like one clip from Salvatore. I'm not going to show all the clips. I'm just going to show the one I posted earlier today because it'll give us context to what we just watched. And then we're going to talk and we're going to look a little bit at cold fusion or cold plasma as well. I've already done a bunch of research on cold plasma. And what we may do is next stream, maybe we'll look into cold electricity. I didn't have time to do a big deep dive on it at the moment. I'm pretty sure this idea of cold plasma, cold electricity, cold whatever is all connected to the ether. I think it's all connected to the ether. I don't have a full comprehensive understanding of it yet, but we're going to get a little bit better today after this.
Interpreting it correctly, then you're talking about high energy plasmas with basically waveforms applied to them, and that would be enough.
Non-equilibrium plasmas. That's a key factor.
Okay.
Non-equilibrium. So we're talking about, you can call them cold plasmas. Plasmas that do not obey the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution of the electrons within them.
Okay.
That gives you an idea. How could these plasmas be created? Hint, hint, attosecond, femtosecond lasers, among other things. There are other easier way to create these.
I love it. I love it. You can tell that Tim Ventura it was going over Tim Ventura's head. That's fine. No big deal. Says right there, attosecond lasers, femtosecond lasers can produce these plasmas. He even says there are other ways that can do it as well that he wouldn't talk about. I've been telling you guys for a year, why did the Nobel Prize winners in 2023 win the Nobel Prize for attosecond lasers? Why did they win the prize for attosecond lasers, guys? Because the faster your laser pulse, the higher the energy. The higher the energy. Eventually, we get to a point where the lasers are powerful enough that they're more powerful than our super colliders are. They're more powerful than our super colliders. That's how powerful these lasers are. You break the Schwinger limit. Exactly, K-Stack. Break the Schwinger limit. Cold plasmas, non-equilibrium plasma. Some of you, okay, if you don't know what the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution is, extremely important to understand. I'm going to teach you right now. The Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution is how we determine the ignition point for fusion reactions in hot fusion. Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution is the average speed of the electrons in a medium compared to the temperature. The higher the temperature, and the curve goes like this. So what is the significance? Basically, what we're trying to figure out is what we're trying to do is we're trying to heat up this plasma. What hot fusion is trying to do is you heat up this plasma right here. And when we heat it up, the electrons, the particles move faster. The elements are moving around faster. The more they're moving around and the faster they're moving around, the more likely they are to collide. The more likely they are to collide, and then what? Fuse. So hot fusion is basically us just turning the heat up, trying to find what temperature will allow for the highest movement of the electrons, of the particles, the atoms, and then have the highest probability that they will collide and fuse into one another. That's what hot fusion is. Hot fusion is a 100% scam. No wonder hot fusion has never been successful. It's the same reason why rockets are never going to take us to another star system. We are cavemen thinking fire hot, fire, make more fire. Make more fire like sun. Particles come together. We're doing it the stupid way. We're doing everything the stupid way. When in reality, we should be trying to engineer space-time so that the particles naturally come together. So they naturally come together without a high temperature. Temperature is not the answer for fusion. How crazy is that? It is so obvious. How much money have we wasted on hot fusion? We've probably wasted hundreds of billions of dollars on hot fusion for zero results Zero. Hot fusion is probably never going to be the answer. You might get to a point where hot fusion can produce over unity, but it's never going to be as efficient as cold fusion is going to be, which is lower temperature nuclear reactions. LENR, low energy nuclear reactions. That's why they rebranded it to LENR. So now we understand the concepts. That's the most important part. We understand that there's an ether of energy that's out there, and you can engineer the vacuum itself. And when you engineer the vacuum, you're changing the gravity and the permittivity of space-time, the speed of light. You can cause more reactions to naturally occur by changing the medium as opposed to just heating it up. So what are our two options? Heat up the plasma and just hope things come together, or engineer the medium and force them to come together? Of course, the second one is the answer. That's cold fusion. Naturally force them to come together. Crazy, right? Crazy. So let's look at the cold fusion research that I did here. Boy, where was that? That was a couple days ago, right? All right, here it is, cold light. So I also looked up this concept of Cherenkov radiation. Okay. I'm probably going to look at some of my Grok things. I use some Grok. I use some, Googling and looking around. But I like Grok, actually. It's pretty, Grok AI is really accurate for some of these concepts, especially if you're just looking for the mainstream understanding of the concepts. Then it's very useful. That's just much more logical. So cold light is really what it sounds like. It's illumination with no heat or little heat coming off of it. One example of cold light is Cherenkov radiation. Cherenkov radiation is an example of cold light. It releases a blue glow, a soft blue glow that doesn't produce heat. I thought the idea of light without heat was pretty wild. AI claims there would be a cone of highly charged particles that are produced when there's a permittivity change. And the particles travel faster than the speed of light. That's Cherenkov radiation. Wow. This is huge. Why? Because this is exactly what Ken Shoulders is saying is happening to the EVOs. Permittivity transitions by Ken Shoulders. So why is this huge? This is why. The Cherenkov radiation is exactly what Ken Shoulders is saying is happening with the EVOs. Permittivity transitions. Here it is right here. And what happens when you change the permittivity of space-time or of a region? You're changing the speed of light. You're making the speed of light go faster. You're going faster than the speed of light. So there's a direct connection between the science here of this permittivity transitions of these EVOs, of these balls of plasma, and I should have just done the other share here. And this cold light, this idea of Cherenkov radiation. So this establishes a direct connection between Ken Shoulders' paper and these balls of light. Okay. So here are just some example questions. I pulled this from Grok, from Google, just combination of things. Does it mean time stops? It means time changes. Doesn't necessarily mean time stops. It means you're changing the dial of time. Changing the dial. Remember time dilation. Yes, you're changing time dilation. So yes, changing the speed of light definitely changes the dial of time, depending on if you're inside the region or if you're on the outside looking at it. Yep. Okay, so cold light in astronomy. Some astronomical phenomenon can be thought of as having cold light, where light is emitted from processes not primarily involving heat. Cherenkov radiation, one of the examples. So I start Googling cold light and grokking cold light. And one of the first things I found that just spider sense went off was Cherenkov radiation. When a charged particle travels faster than light in a medium, it emits a bluish light. This is a form of cold light. Well, what's our medium? The plasma. It's exactly what Ken Shoulders was saying. So it seems like we've got something figured out here. Okay, and here's the orb, by the way, as well. So when they talk about the cone, I think what we're looking at here is a vortex. Just like if you were to take a bath and you unplug the bathtub, you're going to see a vortex, a whirlpool. Same concept as what you're seeing here. We just don't see the whirlpool part because it's like inside the orb here. So we're seeing the part where the whirlpool's on the edge of the orb, but the stuff in the middle we're not quite seeing. So I think there's like a whirlpool in this orb right here. This is speculative, of course, but it's based on low energy nuclear reactions and Bob Greenier's work. So how this occurs, charge and velocity. For Cherenkov radiation to occur, the particle must be charged and its velocity must exceed the phase velocity of light in the medium, which is given by the speed of light divided by n, where n is the refractive index of the medium. Makes perfect sense. The speed of light divided by the refractive index determines the effective speed of light. And you can make that effective speed of light faster than what we think of as the speed of light, because our baseline, what we call the constant speed of light, is just the baseline of speed of light in what we call the vacuum. It's just the baseline. But what we don't realize is we're in a fishbowl. The only reason why it seems like a constant is because everywhere we look, we're still in the fishbowl. We're still in the fishbowl. We don't have anything to compare it to. Now, this part's interesting. The cone of emission, the light is emitted in a cone centered on the direction of the particle's motion. The angle of this cone is known as the Cherenkov angle, and it can be calculated by cosine of, was that phi or something, whatever the zero thing is, equals the speed of light divided by the refractive index times the velocity. And what this does is it means, like in this picture here, you're going to create a cone just like you see on the one on the right here. So what's happening with our sphere? The electrons are flying, positively charged particles, or charged particles, they can be positively or negatively charged, are spiraling inward towards the center of the sphere. That's what we're seeing happen. So when we see our wedge, that heat signature that we saw right here, we're seeing this because these are positively or charged particles vortexing in towards the center of where our black hole is at the middle, like our Schwinger effect, Schwinger limit happening. Yeah, this is the point. Now, this is what's got me excited with the Salvatore Pais interview. Again, it's going to be December 1st on Sunday. It got pushed back 1 week. I apologize. But now that I know all this, interviewing him, like, it's going to be the best interview he's done so far, because I can actually relate directly, where everybody else is like going over their heads. Even the Theories of Everything podcast, it was going over PhD physicists' heads. They weren't even getting it. I get it. I get it. So I'm going to be able to ask relevant questions related to the science. I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be great, guys. Okay, so then the second half is this. Okay, so then I started looking up this Cherenkov radiation. Particle speed. When particles produced by fusion reactions, especially if they are charged, like alpha particles or high energy electrons, move through mediums at speeds greater than the speed of light in medium, they can produce Cherenkov radiation. Cone shape. The light would be emitted in a characteristic cone-shaped pattern because the emission occurs when a charged particle travels faster than the speed of light in the medium. This cone is analogous to a shock wave or sonic boom in sound. The angle of this cone depends on the speed of the particle relative to the speed of light of the medium. So the answer of the why is the cone like how wide the cone is like this is based on how fast the particle's moving through that medium. So it could be like a small wedge or it could be a wide wedge. It's all based on how fast that particle's moving through that medium. Okay. I'm going to finish this, then I'm going to go back to the super chats because you guys are going wild. Polarization of the vacuum. Under extreme conditions like very strong electromagnetic fields, what does that sound like, chat? The quantum vacuum can become polarized, which means it behaves somewhat like a medium with an effective refractive index. If this were the case, charged particles could, in principle, emit Cherenkov radiation in this polarized vacuum if they moved faster than light in the effective medium. That's more bingo than I could have possibly have imagined. Yahtzee! I mean, that was it. That is it. That is the answer. You're staring right at it. There it is in your face. You can polarize the vacuum, which has, therefore, the medium has a refractive index. If you change the refractive index, then you can see Cherenkov radiation because of that change and the permittivity change of the medium itself. There you go. That's it. Boom, right there. And then the last one, appearance, cone-shaped emission. The radiation would still be emitted in a conical shape around the path of the high-speed charged particles. This cone's angle depends on the particle's speed relative to the phase velocity of the light in the plasma. And then you'd have a glow effect. Guys, remember, Schellenberger was just saying stuff about people were seeing these glowing balls of plasma, and it had like a dull look to it, like a roiling sun. The reason why they're seeing this roiling sun is because it's emitting cold light. That's why it has this weird dimness to it, even though it is a, ball of energy emitting photons. It's emitting cold light. In a plasma, especially if it's dense enough, and if observed in the right conditions, you might see a glowing effect. This glow would likely be more diffuse than in clear materials like water, due to the scattering by the charged particles in the plasma. I got to tell you guys, cold plasma, pretty damn sweet. Let's read this thing. A non-equilibrium plasma, known as a cold plasma or non-thermal plasma, which literally means no heat, is a type of plasma where the temperature of the electrons is significantly higher than that of the ions and neutral species. Why does it say species right there? Okay. Here are some key characteristics and features. Temperature separation. In a non-equilibrium plasma, the electron temperature is much higher than the temperature of the ions and neutral particles, which might be near room temperature or slightly above. Okay, guys, wow. Already I'm like, okay, we've got it. The videos are real. Like, shit, Chad. If you didn't just, wow. So what this means, I wish I had one of just the orbs. Here we go. When we see that orb right there, this would mean that the hot part, the part that you see in green on the orbs, is the electrons clustered together. That's the electrons clustered together. They're at a higher temperature. The ions and the neutrons are the blue part on the rest of it. And what is this doing? It's creating an asymmetry. It's creating an asymmetry. So now the non-equilibrium plasma, no wonder Salvatore Pais looks at this, and he's been talking about non-equilibrium plasma. No wonder he's so excited. He's staring at that, and he's going, that's a cold plasma. That is a non-equilibrium plasma. You're staring right at it, right there next to the plane. This disparity arises because the electrons, being much lighter, gain more energy from the electric fields than the heavier ions do. Ionization level. These plasmas have a relatively low degree of ionization, meaning the fraction of ionized particles, atoms or molecules that have lost or gained electrons, is small compared to the total number of particles. Due to their lower overall temperature, non-equilibrium plasmas find applications where thermal damage needs to be minimized. Now, what is the biggest thermal damage that needs to be minimized? This is why when we build these tokamak reactors, like, we're just destroying them because the hot plasma just destroys the reaction chamber. So this answer is you need a cold plasma, and you don't want to have a reaction chamber at all. You don't need a reaction chamber. Yeah, electrons and neutrons clustering. How? Read EVOs. Ken Shoulder says that these plasmas, these cold plasmas, naturally, the electrons naturally cluster together. Naturally. They actually can't fully explain it. We believe the answer is the Casimir effect. Casimir effect is causing the electrons to cluster when normally they should be repelling each other. Medical applications. So there's stuff, I'm going to ignore the medical applications. I don't want to get my account banned. Material processing, environmental. Okay, sure. Agriculture. We don't care about any of that stuff. Generation methods can be developed using dielectric barrier discharges. That one's interesting. Corona discharges, radio frequency discharges, and microwave discharges. Reactivity. The high energy electrons in these plasmas can effectively break molecular bonds, leading to chemical reactions at much lower temperatures than would be required in thermal equilibrium conditions. What does that say right there, chat? That says transmutation via cold fusion is possible. That's what that's saying right there. You can break molecular bonds. So you can quite literally dissipate a water molecule with H2O, break it apart. Just falls apart. The molecular bonds fall apart with a high energy plasma at much lower temperatures than very high temperatures. Research. Non-equilibrium plasmas are subject of extensive research for their potential in new technological applications due to their unique ability to perform chemical reactions at lower temperatures. Yeah, there it is, chat. That's what you meant to say. There it is. We've been wondering, what is cold fusion? How do we understand cold fusion? Now we're realizing, no wonder Ken Shoulders said that the cold fusion researchers, none of them are even really close, because it was all about plasma to begin with. It's not about putting palladium rods in water. Sure, that could be a proof of concept, but if you want to engineer it so that it's practical, so that you're getting powerful effects, you want to make a plasma. Plasma is the secret. Plasma was always how we should have been doing this. So the concept of non-equilibrium plasmas breaks away from the usual assumption that all species in a plasma are at the same temperature, which is typical in thermal plasmas like those found in stars or arc welding. Instead, non-equilibrium plasmas leverage this temperature disparity for specific applications where high reactivity is desired without the heat. So what did I just say? You watched me guys ask Grok that. And before I asked Grok that, I told you hot plasma is basically just turning the temperature up and hoping things interact more. Cold plasma is saying we're engineering the permittivity of space to force the reactions to happen at a lower temperature. Incredible, guys. Absolutely incredible. Plasma is definitely the secret to all this UFO stuff. I would never have guessed that a year ago. Turns out that it is. Plasma is the key to it. Non-equilibrium, non-thermal, cold plasma has higher charge density than a hot plasma does. Salvatore Pais mentions this in several of the interviews as well, is that the cold plasma with these natural electrons clustering together, the density of those electrons is so high that the electromagnetic field strength in this ball of plasma is massive. massive. That's what's allowing us to break the Schwinger limit. We're breaking the Schwinger limit with a ball of plasma that's super powerfully electromagnetically charged. And then we're using the Coulomb's force, jamming them together, boom, creating a cold explosion, an endothermic event, a singularity that breaks the Schwinger limit. And then what, chat? You guys know. Y'all know this happens. Those are cold plasma, powerfully electrically charged balls of plasma converging together. Bye-bye goes the plane. Wormhole. Poof. Poof goes the plane. So what I'm kind of wondering is maybe that was an experiment. Maybe we were testing it. Maybe we didn't figure out how to break the Schwinger limit until 2013, 2014, when the plane disappeared. Maybe. I don't really know. Hard to say, but we've figured out the science. We're to the point where we've got it figured out. We've got it on lockdown. Definitely related to plasma. Definitely related to cold plasma. Powerfully electrically charged balls of energy. Jam them together. Just like trying to jam two super powerful magnets together that are the same polarity, you're going to have extremely powerful repulsive effect. And you do it and they're powerful enough and you just rip through the fabric of reality. 100% promise. Remember, I have a whistleblower that has said 100% the video that we're looking at here is SBIRS, Space-Based Infrared System, the same thing that we were able to do a year ago. So if you're trying to claim that this is VFX, you are about to have your life ruined. Okay? So be careful what you say out there. Be careful who you attack. Because I've got somebody that worked on the SBIRS system that says that this is, in their opinion, 100% space-based infrared system. Good luck. Guys, thank you very much. This has been a great stream. I hope you guys had a great night tonight. I'm going to go get some rest. I appreciate it. I'll go through the last donations with 53 donations. I can barely keep up. You guys went off tonight. I'm going to try to get the Hard Truths podcast with Martin Gibson out on Sunday. I'm going to make sure he's okay with it. Next week, Salvatore Pais on next Sunday. And then I want to talk to Tom Montauk. I'm going to see if I can get him on in mid-December, early December, where we can talk Tom Montauk again. What's the motive? The motive is the Freescale Semiconductor Engineer. So if you want to know more about where the plane went, what the motive is, please watch my interviews. I go over all those questions every single interview I do. So just watch my interviews and you will find the answers to all your questions. Thank you for those donations, guys. Okay, I'm going to go to sleep, guys. It's been a long day. You guys have a great one. Love you, MH270X. Peace out, guys. And let's play us out with, let's do our OG cipher, guys, science-based. Later, everybody. Great night.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate. Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeeze so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course. Talking